Hi, and welcome to the Metaphorics NAV Know-How webinar. I'm Pauline Forder, and today we will be looking at VAT reporting, looking at the calc and post VAT settlement routine and the production of the VAT statement. Year-end process, which includes us having to close and create a new year and to use the close income statement and post journal routine. And then we will look at currencies, where we will see the exchange rates and how we add new exchange rates, and also to run the adjust currency revaluation batch job. So first of all, let's go and have a look at our VAT. The first thing probably to look at is the VAT setup itself. So within the VAT posting setup, now this table contains all the various combinations of our VAT business posting groups and VAT product posting groups. And it is these combinations that are used in the calc and post and the VAT statement itself. Most importantly, the VAT statement, which is a manually designed report, which has to encompass all of these various combinations. So once we know what we're expecting to see, we can then go to the VAT statement itself. And in our Cronus database, we have a VAT GB template, and within that, our GB statement itself. So the purpose of the VAT statement is to bring together all the details of the various postings in our VAT posting setup. The top section is normally where all the summary of the totals of all the VAT postings are collected. Underneath that section, we then go into the individual details of the various postings themselves. And the way we would see this is we break down each of the combinations, both within a purchase and a sale posting type, the VAT business posting group and all the combinations. In this case, we're going to report on the amount, the VAT amount itself, and we duplicate that through all the business posting groups and all the valid VAT product posting groups within that business group. We duplicate again for all the sales entries, and then at the bottom end of the VAT statement, we have the base amount. So again, we have to break down all those combinations from the business and the product posting groups. When we're ready to run our statement, we can simply go to the preview button at the top. And in this screen, we can see that our lines are now being populated. However, we do have to provide some information in the first instance. We have include VAT entries, and our options are open, closed, or open and closed. So we're really just at this point in time wanting to report on any open entries. Of course, historically you can go back, and if you use the closed option, then you can see previous statements that have already, where the calc and post has already been posted. We also have to determine which VAT entries to include. So do we want to go before and within the period, or just within the period itself? Normally we would choose before and within, because we can have the situation where postings are made into prior VAT quarters, so we want to make sure that we collect all those entries. We then have to enter the date that we are using, and this is our VAT quarter date. Because we're working on a Cronus database, we're actually looking at the year 2014. So we're going to be looking at January 2014 to the end of March 14. And you'll notice that the figures now have indeed changed. So that is our VAT statement, but that's just the one part of our VAT reconciliation. So I'm just going to move that over and resize that for use later on. Okay, so our next stage is to report from a NAV perspective as to what Navision is actually going to be posting, i.e. through the VAT ledger entries. So that is using the calc and post VAT settlement routine. Now, in the terms of our starting date, again, we would leave that open because we want to pick up everything as per we have selected on the statement, i.e. collect anything that might have even been posted back into a previous quarter. The end date, the end of March, and the posting date is normally exactly the same date. Our document number can be anything we want. So if this is, for example, the first quarter 2014, or we can give it any name that we wish. We then have to select our VAT settlement account. So we can drill down into our GL list and in this case I'm going to be picking up not the retained earnings but the VAT, and in this case on this particular database it's called VAT payable. Now I have some options here. I can tick a box to say show the VAT entries and also to post. I'm not going to tick either of those at the moment. I'm not going to do the VAT entries because I just want to get a summary report because I just need to reconcile it against my VAT statement. And I'm certainly not going to tick the post box because if I post, then that is the end of the reconciliation. I have no means to go back and change anything. So post is the last function that we do. I'm now going to just preview it to screen so we can see it. And again, I'm just going to resize that so that we can get it side by side to my statement that I've just run. Okay, so let's get our statement up on our screen. So here we are, and the way that we do our reconciliation, probably the first port of call that we'd want to do is just check on our total, which is at the bottom of our report. So we've got £3,012.33p, and likewise on our statement we hope that we're going to find the same value. So indeed we can see that those values do tie up, but of course we should check each individual combination as well to make sure that we haven't got any mispostings at all. So the way that we read our report is in the first column here. It tells us the VAT business posting group. The next column is the VAT product posting group, and then the posting type. So in this case it's purchase, and then it details underneath that the actual postings that have been made in a summary form. So if we just simply pick up, for example, here our first entry on our statement, it's national and it's VAT 20, and we're looking at the amount type, which is the VAT amount. So we can come across to our report, national, VAT 20 and purchase, and we can see we have 553563 on our report, and that ties up onto our VAT statement. And so on and so forth we can go through. So for example, on our EU entry, so we've got EU VAT 20 and a figure of 225540. Over on our report, again EU VAT 20 and the amount is 225540. Now you'll notice that there is a reversing option, and this is because this is reverse VAT, of course, being the EU requirement. So we will carry on and check all of our figures from both a sales and purchase point of view. So again, if we were to look at our sales amount, national VAT 20, back to national VAT 20, sales, and we can see our amount field 7592.22 and 7592.22. Absolutely perfect. Likewise though, we want to have a look at the base figures. So again, if we just check on that national VAT 20 on our purchase front, so national VAT 20, purchase the base amount, which is our 31,632.05, 31,632.05. So everything is tallying up, and as long as we're happy and we've happy that everything is correct, then what we can then do is to I'll just close that down. We can then actually print our statement. So we've got a hard copy. Again, within the print routine, we have to say the details of how we're actually running the VAT statement. So again, my start date and my end date, whether I'm including the VAT entries, if you remember, open, closed or open and closed. Well, we're only dealing with the open ones here. And again, we've chosen the before and within period. I'll just preview to screen so that we can see that. So here we are with all our totals at the top of our screen, and as we go down the page we can see the various combinations and various totals as per our statement. So we're happy with our statement. We would probably print that up or print it to PDF, which would be more sensible, and we can just click on our print button and choose the Save to PDF option. But of course we mustn't forget our calc and post, because we haven't actually reconciled this as far as Navision is concerned. So back to our calc and post. It will remember the details as you have specified already, but this time we will tick the show VAT entries, and we will, in this case, post. Now the actual posting function is triggered by either doing the print, and the print can be to PDF again, or indeed through the preview button as well. So if that post is ticked, then whichever option you take, it will indeed post the calc and post for you. So again, I'm just going to do that and preview it to screen so we can have a look. And yes, please, I do want to post it. So here's our report, and we can see that this time, because we chose the details tick box, under the various combinations, we have all the documents or transactions that give us those particular values all the way through our various combinations. So that is how we do our calc and post VAT settlement and run our VAT statement. what I'd like to move on to now is to have a look at the close year functionality and the running of the close income statement. So the first thing that we need to do is to go to our calendar setup to make sure that everything is set up correctly here. And from our main screen, I will go to the Navigate Fast tab and go to Year. And in here, we can see that we have years 2012, which has been closed, and 2013 that has not been closed yet. Now there is a check when you do a close year. Navision does have to have the next year open, so I'll just show you that error that you get. You must create a new fiscal year before you can close the old year. So to do the create a new fiscal year, I do advise that you run it through the create fiscal year batch job here, because then all the months will also be created behind the scenes for you. So create fiscal year. Navision knows that the last year in the counting period is 2013, therefore will automatically bring through 2014 for you. You specify the number of months and the month length. Now here, the reason why you might change that number of months would only be if you were changing the start of your financial year, and you could do that through this particular screen. So we'll just say OK to that. And there we are, 2014 has been created, and as I say, all the months have been created behind the scenes. So now we can come in and we can close our year. And Navision just warns us that the function to close the year, once it has gone through, then it cannot be reopened, and the periods in the fiscal year cannot be changed. That doesn't mean, however, that we can't still continue to post to a closed year. So yes, I would like to close the financial year, and basically that little tick box is ticked for us to determine that that is indeed the case. So our next stage to this is to go and run the close income statement routine. And we can do that. We can search for it if we can't see it. So close income statement. And we have some options to fill in. The year is auto-populated for us, i.e. it will always pick up the last year that has been closed. We then, however, need to say which journal we want our postings to be collated into. So we'll pick up, for example, General Journal template, and then our journal batch. You can create your own batch specific for year end, or do it in the defaults, it's entirely up to you. I'm going to select our year end batch, and you'll notice I haven't associated a number series with my batch because I want to number the journal entries myself. So select that. Here's my document number, so year end 2013, and then I need to select my retained earnings. So in our Cronus database we do have a retained earnings account here. The posting description, if I just expand this, comes out as close income statement. You might just want to add in their year or completely put a different posting description. It's entirely up to you. For those people that have dimensions, it's important that we select the dimensions, otherwise our journal won't post if on our chart of accounts we have any code mandatory selected. And to populate this, little area, we just have to go to our Assist Edit box here and select by ticking the boxes on those dimensions that we want to use. When we're happy with this, we just say OK, and it will run through and produce our journal lines for us. Now, just a little note, dependent on the size of your database and the number of transactions and the dimension controls that you might have set on your chart of accounts, that process could take a little while, and some of our customers prefer to run that process overnight, so set it running as they leave the office and come in the morning to the journal. So we'll come into our general journals, and there's my year-end batch, duly populated. And indeed, as I was mentioning, if you are using dimensions, then you'll notice here, for example, for GL account 6110, there are several entries, and that is purely because of the different combinations between the various dimension codes. So for each combination, there will be one entry. Now at this point, it's then down to your good selves to check that the figures are indeed correct. If you are happy, then you can simply post and print the journal. If for whatever reason you're not happy with the lines, then you can simply just delete them, highlight and delete, and then do corrections or whatever it is that is needed, and then run the process again. Just a word of warning, if you were to leave the journal lines in your journal and then run the closing income statement again, it will duplicate the entries. So please, if you're not going to post your journal in the first instance, delete the lines, make your corrections, do whatever it is required, and then run the closing income statement again. However, if you are completely happy, then you can just do the post or post and print, and it will post those journal lines for you. Okay, so that is how we can create a new fiscal year, how we close the last fiscal year, and how we run the closing income statement. So what I'd like to do now is run through the currencies side of things. So we'll have a look at the currencies themselves. So on my Roll Centre, I do have the link here to currencies. Again, I advise our customers that if they have a table as big as this with this many entries, then really just to delete those entries that aren't required, i.e. those currencies that you don't deal with. That just means that users can't inadvertently pick up the wrong currency on their various documents. In terms of each of the currencies though, we have to determine where, when there's gains and losses, both realised and unrealised, which GL accounts we want those to go to. We give in details about rounding precisions and decimal places. So for example, 2:2 is minimum of 2, maximum of 2. And there's various other rounding details on our particular currency code. Now, against each currency, we have to then set up the actual exchange rates, and we do that by selecting the currency that we want to work on and go to the exchange rate table. And here we determine what rates we're going to use at what given time. Now, this is a 2014 Cronus database. So I'm going to be now entering in the new value for 2014. Of course, if you put in or require to have exchange rate changes on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, then you would just come into this table and put in the date from which the new rate would start. So it's entirely up to you as to how you use this. So my rate at 2014 is, or January 2014, is 1.346 against £1. Okay, so this little column here, fixed exchange rate amount. What Navision is asking you is, do you want users to be able to change any exchange rates when they're in, for example, a sales or purchase order or invoice? So here you're saying which you want to fix. So with the relational, that is saying that it's going to fix the relational currency, which in this case is GBP. So with this setting here, by default, it's saying that the currency or the exchange rate amount in this column can be changed on the various documents. It's just up to yourselves if you want to utilise or allow users to do that. It would work in the realms of perhaps your vendors have provided you with a preferential rate for their particular orders, and therefore you can override that exchange rate on there. So this is our new rate for 2014 going forward, and now when any documents are created, that dependent on the posting date and document date, it will come into this table here and pick up the relevant amount. So once we have done this, of course, we do have, or potentially have, some open entries from previous months, those that haven't been cleared, that we might want to revalue. And we do that by going to the Adjust Exchange Rate batch job that we find on our home ribbon in our currency table. It's asking for a start and an end date. Now, because we're looking at transactions that are open, obviously they could be open from a previous period, and therefore we would leave the starting date as blank to make sure that all those entries are picked up. But we now want to revalue up to and including the end of January 2014. In the posting description, you'll notice there's some percent and a number field. That's what we call variable fields, and those two particular %1 and %2 characters, they represent the actual currency code and the value of the currency code that is being changed. Our posting date is the same as our ending date, and in our document number, here we can specify what we would like to call this. So I'm just going to call it Jan 2014. And then to action the revaluation, we have to tick the Adjust Customer, Vendor and Bank Accounts. And you'll notice it is all three. You can't choose just to revalue perhaps customers and bank accounts, it's all of them. So once we've entered our details, we will then just simply click OK, and Navision goes through all of the entries and determines which ones need to be revalued. We can see what has been revalued if we go to the exchange rate adjust register here, and you'll notice it breaks it down into the different account types. So we have bank account, we have customer accounts and vendor accounts. So it tells us what the adjusted base was here and the adjusted amount fields. To see that in more detail, we can go to one of our customers and have a look at the impact on their ledger entries. So I will just close that down, come to our customers, and the customer I want is, which one shall we go for? It's Antarctica B. So from here we can go to ledger entries, and from our ledger entries we then can go to our detailed ledger entries, and we can see that the amount in this particular case of euros 374, and it has been revalued as a realised gain with our figure here. So full audit trail of our batch job, of our revaluation, both from a registers, from the currency point of view, and from our customer record. So, in summary, we have gone through our VAT reporting, we have looked at the calc and post VAT settlement routine and the VAT statement and reconciled the two together. We have gone through the year-end process, running the close year and indeed creating a new fiscal year and running the close income statement. And then we went on to look at currencies, how we populate our exchange rate table, and how, if required, we can run the adjust currency revaluation job. I'd like to thank you for joining me on this session today, and if you wish, you can pick up a copy of this and all previous webinars. You can download them from our site here displayed. If you have any questions, please, you can either email Debbie Clark at debbiec@metaphorics.co.uk, or indeed support@metaphorics.co.uk. However, I would like to offer it open now to your good selves, so that if there are any questions that I can answer, then I will be more than happy to do so. So, anybody have any questions for me? I can't unmute you here, so if you have got mute on your settings, then please unmute yourself and I'll be happy to answer any questions. I can't actually hear anybody. I hope it doesn't mean that something has gone a little amiss. If it has, please do email Debbie or support, and we will be happy to get back to you. But thanks again for joining me, and I hope that I can look forward to you joining me on future sessions. Thank you.